In the top focus, the Union Home Ministry has just this afternoon launched the National Registry of Sex Offenders, making India the 9th country in the world to maintain this list. Now, what this essentially means is that it's going to be a lot more easier to keep track on sexual offenders, since the government is going to be maintaining this database with biometric data along with personal details. So if the law enforcement agencies recover DNA samples from a crime scene, it's going to be easier to match these samples and nab the offender or a repeat offender. But unlike the US, the registry will only be accessible to law enforcement agencies and not the public. We have with us our correspondent Milan getting us further inputs in this major step now that has been taken by the government. Milan, in how the government has explained, can this really pull down on crime against women? How is this going to be working on ground in the long run?
Well, Seher, the step that has been taken by the Ministry of Home Affairs today is a monumental one, to say that for the first time a national database of this sort of sexual offenders will be made. In fact, we're looking at almost 4.5 lakh cases which will be part of this registry. And also the MHA has informed us that the data will be stored for at least 15 years for offenders, first-time offenders, and repeat offenders will see their data being stored for at least 25 years. And we're looking at a national database where DNA samples, Aadhaar card numbers, names, photo IDs and registration numbers will be logged in. This will help investigation with various states. Sadly, at this point of time, this data, this very crucial data, will only be shared with the law enforcement agencies of the state governments as well as the union territories. Well, we have seen how India has become the 9th such country to have a national data like this. However, apart from this, the countries, like US, the United States of America, as well as the United Kingdom and other developed nations have made this data public. However, the MHA, the Ministry of Home Affairs, at this point has not decided to make this data publicly available to all.
Right. And is this going to be available to local police, state police with immediate effect?
Yes, that's right. In fact, the entire national database will be secured and will be stored by the National Crime Records Bureau, and under which it will be shared and stored with the states as well as the union territories law enforcement agencies who will have a record of each and every sex offender in each and every state and district of the country, and they are the only ones who will know. And all these 4.5 lakh cases that the MHA has informed us now will be mapped, and investigations thereon, this is what the ministry says, will become easier for people, especially if the offender is a repeat offender. In many cases, we have seen how sexual offences have been committed by people repeatedly, and there wasn't any such record available at a national level. But now the national level data will secure all these records, and certainly if available, if this data is made available to the public, we'll be able to name and shame these people. However, the ministry at this point of time has not set that precedent forward.
That's right, Milan. But once again, of course, we're looking at how this is going to be implemented on ground, the workings of it, which could perhaps drastically pull down violence, sexual violence against women and young girls, being the main motive here of having released this nature of a data and making it available to all police and investigative agencies. But it is the coordination of information that continues to be a larger concern on how this is going to be working on ground with different investigative agencies as well as the police to raise red flags at a time that matters.
Well, certainly at this point, yes, the collation of data that is being done at the national level will see how the National Crime Records Bureau is able to share and expedite the kind of investigations that have been lagging in many cases. We have seen how horrific rape cases have come to light from across the country, whether we talk about the POXO cases where child sexual offenders are involved, and even this kind of data, let me tell you, was told by the Ministry of Women and Child Development. It took 3 years for the government to actually make an entire national database. So yes, collation of information and sharing of information is very crucial, which the ministry now says will be done on the ground so that investigations can be expedited in many such horrific rape cases.
Yes, stay on with us, please. Let's get in a word here. We have Ms. Anila Singh of the BJP with us on the phone line. Also, Mr. K.K. Menon, senior lawyer, with us on the phone line as well. First to you, Mr. Menon, in your view, to what extent is going to help the government bring down crime against women?
Definitely, it will come down the crime, especially when the people will be naked in the eyes of public, and the public will know it, that who is who, what is what, and especially these people will be boycotted and will not see by the public in good eyes. Always they will be...
Right. But Mr. Menon, for the moment, the government, of course, has decided not to make this information public. It's going to remain with agencies, with investigative agencies, with police. Yes.
No, it is already in the rules and already in the procedure that the name, address, identity of the prosecutors will not be published. It is not a new thing, and what only thing is, it is a very good step, in fact, in the larger interest of the public, as well as especially the innocent girls, innocent people, especially. Crime is not in one type of crime only against child, against unmarried women,
right.
Against... You see that a new phenomena is a new modus operandi that give just promise for a marriage also. Lot of people comes under the clutches of such type of people on the pretext of marriage. They used to go and sleep with the girls, especially sometimes they pregnant them, and
we got your point, Mr. Menon. Let's also get in Anila Singh of the BJP here on this holding the line there. Anila, I appreciate you being with us. There's a certain section which believes that, of course, this is a great start, the great first step, a promise having met with by the government in helping control crime against women and young girls, sexual offences against women. But there are several who feel that this should be made available to public as well as a reference point.
Absolutely, but first of all, I can say we congratulate the NDA government and especially Modi government, I can say, to take this step, and definitely it is very welcoming, and I appreciate your channel as well, because from last couple of years, even you were pursuing to get this work done, and now finally it is out. And as far as the matter is, I know that Mirror Now has always been a very Mirror Now has always put the women's issue very strongly in front of everyone. So, in time to come, I'm hoping that the perpetrators or the habitual or sexual offenders, they will be made public as well. But it is a good start, and let us hope for the best, that it is going to decrease the crime graph, which is badly required in today's state.
Right. Mr. Menon, in your view, do you think it's a tall order, as a challenge which is still there before the government as far as coordination in cross-checking this nature of information between various investigative agencies and local police and state police?
You see, one thing is very clear. It's my experience. The police is always help accused persons. Perception in the eyes of the police, especially where men folk investigate the matter, because women folk as investigating officers are very less in the all, whether it is the local police, CBI, wherever it is. Because these type of cases should be investigated by the lady police. And lady police is also not about good sometime. I have seen across number of cases. But one thing one should make sure that we should tell them, make sure that they should investigate the matter properly, fairly, scientifically, and fast. So these cases should go to the fast-track courts and decide, and especially when the cases of a child rape cases, when POXO is there, and in these cases, you don't require so much evidence. Prosecutrix evidence plus scientific evidence is sufficient. Man can be convicted within months, within few months. And in few cases, you have seen in one of the cases in Rajasthan.
Mr. Menon, do you feel, is there a sense that this is at the end of the day going to be a fair management of data and information? If you have an influential person involved who is an accused or a politician, would there be hesitation to be putting that information on this registry then?
Definitely. You have seen in the UP, one of that ministers, he was involved in a murder as well as in a rape case.
Yes.
And he tried his level best. If the press would have not created so much things and the press would have not taken that matter,
he would have gotten away with it. Exactly.
Investigating officers or the investigating agencies, including the local police, was connived with that politician, BJP man who was MLA, and otherwise things would have been different if the investigating officer would have steps in time. One innocent girl would have been alive today, and she committed suicide. So in these cases, investigating agencies should be very sensitive. They should take it, because everybody has a daughter, sister, wife. After all, no man.
That's right. Let's also get a view here from prominent women's rights activist Ms. Ranjana Kumari with us over the phone. I'll appreciate you being with us, ma'am. Do you look at this as a major step in the right direction, and what really are the challenges after the government already having compiled all this information on this registry now?
Well, I think this was our recommendation at the time of Verma Commission. We all spoke about it. We wanted, because so far Indian society is used to shaming and, putting all kinds of burden on the girls who get raped, and ultimately they are the ones, and their family is the one which is put in the dock by people. So it's important that all the convicted rapists are put to made known to people, so there is no repeat offense, and also that there is no problem in terms of really identifying who these people are, so the neighborhood is alert. And also when they seek employment, they should be punished, really severely punished for the kind of act that they have done, because law takes its own time, and, investigation is tardy. Police gets, due to corruption, does not really put people in a manner in which they can get the conviction. So once convicted, they must be told to people who these people are. Instead of putting the women to social stigma and shame, these men should be put to social stigma and shame.
Right.
And this is a very important step, and I really
Is it also going to be a challenge here? Right.
Well,
okay. Ms. Ranjana Kumari, we of course looking at the next step as well, also to ensure that this continues to be a fair maintenance of the names in this registry. Is it also going to be a challenge to make this fair? If you have influential people such as businessmen or politicians who are accused and convicted, to maintain those names on the registry here as well?
Well, every name has to come. Every name has to come. How can you really? But then, sadly enough, we know that all the high mighty get away with everything in our system, and there is no rule of law for them. Rest of the society has rule of law. So, but still, we should ensure, and there has to be a system in which, if you have been, reformed, if you have really proved that you are you've understood the mistake you've made and the kind of punishment that you've gone through, then perhaps you may have a retrieval system where you can retrieve your name out of the registry. That should also be one of the ways of looking at people and believing in reform. But high and mighty should not get away. In fact, their name we should ensure as people and society and police and government that their name should be there. There is absolutely no way we can, let them loose, because these are the people not punished, create a kind of system or kind of idea in our system that you can get away with that. So this has to be a foolproof list with responsibility. Police has to be really held accountable for it, for putting people's name in the list, and also convicted people should be in the list.
Okay. We appreciate your view on that. A first reaction, of course, here that's coming in from a prominent women rights activist, Ms. Ranjana Kumari, having been pushing the government time and again to get this list ready would help ample as far as not just first-time offenders but even repeat offenders to raise the red flag when required. Let's get in a word here from Supreme Court Advocate Vishwajit Bhattacharya with us on the phone line as well. Appreciate you being with us. In your view, would you look at this for a country as large as India? Yet another positive step forward in dealing with crime, sexual violence against women?
Well, conceptually, it is surely a kind of positive step. But the problem mostly arises not on concepts. You see, the concepts and intentions of the governments are always noble and good. The problem comes in implementation. The problem may also come that whether this has been done under some kind of a statutory framework or under some administrative instructions or guidelines, whose name will be included, whose name will not be included.
If you could explain, sir, what really are the challenges that one would face as far as implementation is concerned? What are the challenges that we're looking at here?
Challenges of the implementation, the first challenge may come as to whose name would be put into it. Who is going to sort of scrutinize it? And suppose some name comes in wrongly, whether the person concerned will be informed, whether he will have any appellate kind of channel, and on what basis,
Okay.
whether there should be a cross-check, and the purpose is good. Again, I am saying the purpose is good. Those who are indulging in criminal activities, of course, it is the founded and overriding responsibility of the state to keep track of them, any person acting against the law. But then again, this should not degenerate into yet another source of arbitrariness, because we have seen enough of arbitrary actions. So one has to be very, very cautious and careful. One has to be very, very cautious and careful in administering and implementing it, and the purpose for which it is being done, that should be achieved.
All right.
That should be achieved, but...
Okay, we appreciate that concern being raised. Of course, we're going to be discussing this further through the day, even during prime time debate, and further scrutinizing what this really means as the next big step in reining in and helping and reduce sexual violence and crime against women. We appreciate all those voices here that have spoken to us and to our correspondent Milan with those inputs.